Good afternoon. On behalf of the Board of Education, I call to order the work session. Today is Tuesday, January the 13th. Welcome to those joining us this afternoon, as well as those watching online, ABSS staff, and as always, our friends from the media. We are meeting again today here at our Career and Technical Center. And at this time, board members, you've had an opportunity to review the agenda. Is there a motion to approve at this time?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Fleming, our superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the board. It's good to see all of you here again after what I believe to be a very productive meeting yesterday. We're here again. We hope we are not here for our night meeting or even somewhere else. We want to be back in our boardroom. As you know, we had some asbestos remediation, and putting everything back together is a little slower than we anticipated on the technology side, mainly not Mr. Fry's technology side so much as getting wires rerun and getting some contractors in there to do some things. So, as expected with an older building. So we're hoping we can at least, I'm not sure if we'll have carpet on the floor yet, but hopefully we can at least get our meeting back there for our evening meeting later this month. If not, we will certainly notice the meeting somewhere else and make sure you know where that's at. So no concerns there. We've got I believe, somewhat of a slimmer agenda, but certainly a very important, several very important items on our agenda today. And first up will be our friends from School Camp, or I call them ORED. School Camp, sort of their umbrella organization at NC State. Matthew Palmer is going to, I believe, lead the presentation, talking about our student assignment rezoning process, what we used to really call redistricting. I will tell you, working and prior to my arrival in ABSS, working with the School Camp and ORED folks, it's always pleasant working with them. The process of going through this rezoning is probably never pleasant, but it is certainly easier to deal with when you have them assisting you. And so I just ask you to listen to everything they share, and I know our public tuning in will be interested as well. And then they'll be happy to answer any questions. But as I hate using the word unpleasant, but as unpleasant as redistricting can be, I do think it's a little better with them helping us. So I will turn the floor over to Mr. Palmer.
Thank you, Dr. Fleming, and good afternoon again, board. Nice to see you all here. What a beautiful facility this is. It's great to see the investment in career technical education and a facility that supports that. One of the things that we like to talk about within our School Camp team, and I will kind of pause on that for a second, that acronym CAMP is School and Community Aligned Master Planning, to bring it all together. And actually, this building is a good testament to that, right? Very much of what we're trying to do to support your students and your staff. But we often talk about within projects with School Camp and ORED that we build community by building together. And so as difficult as change and the challenges of the modern times can be, healthy things grow and growing things change, and change challenges us. So these processes are also about building community as we work together. Our student assignment and facilities master plan here today, we're going to review where we left off the conversation back in the fall of 2025 with regards to the enrollment forecast and the current state of Alamance Burlington school system schools. We'll go through a review, just a very brief touch on the best practices when you're looking at student assignment and facilities, how we link those up, and ultimately within this project, our project timeline and milestones and the touch points within the arc of the next few months ahead. We want to go in a little bit and talk about what we've already got underway working with principals and school leaders, you, the board, obviously the public and families as well, and the Community Advisory Board, which we'll be meeting with tomorrow. And then here for questions, next steps, clarifications, anything you need. So as we left it in August this past fall, we talked about the growth and development in Alamance County. It is here. You see it on the way in. Many of you probably see or hear about it every day as far as the residential projects that are coming up within the county. This forecast was brought to you by our colleagues, ORED, which is Operations and Research Education Lab. They do the student enrollment forecast and say, how many kids in 10 years? And we left it off in talking about in 2034, 35, we're looking at over 11,000 elementary students, over 8,000 high school students, and nearly 6,000 middle school students. So a significant amount of growth in the time between now and then, in the years ahead. The challenge point is that that's not equally distributed across the county. That's in pockets and in areas, right? In neighborhoods that are coming up out of the ground, as well as neighborhoods that currently exist. And so that growth that you're seeing in this line graph over time is not just randomly distributed through the county. There's certain areas and certain schools that support that. When we bring that in, and I'm showing you this here as an example of some of the work that we're doing currently, we take the enrolled students that are projected over the years ahead and we put them into schools based on sort of the legacy capacity of those schools. Now that's that column you see on the far left, capacities for 24, 25. What we're currently working with Alamance school leaders on, Mr. Hook and Dr. Fleming, is to review the capacities of our facilities and make sure that it's not only about the number of seats or the architectural blueprints from the 90s when the school was built, but modern education. How are we staffing it? And how are we performing instruction and the delivery of curriculum? Making sure that it is an adequate facility for how you're running the 21st century school here in Alamance. What that means is in those green and red areas, we're trying to balance those out. Yes, the capacities are under review. We'll be bringing those back to the administration shortly. But ultimately, the goal of any student assignment project is to balance out what are the legislated capacities, particularly at the elementary level, but at all three tiers, and what are the forecasted number of students. That's our sort of tier one priority. When we don't have that, as is the current context, we have overcrowded schools, which means that you have to have creative solutions, like looking at an elementary school co-located with a middle school temporarily. It's a very creative solution, but it exhibits the pain points and why this work is so important. We left off with this slide last time talking about the solutions, near-term, long-term. Student assignment and geographic reassignment for boundaries as a near-term tactical solution. We can try to realign lines temporarily as we enhance the capacity of the overall district, which is done through facility master planning. Again, that is looking long-term at your facility conditions, your existing capacities, what schools you have and what schools you'll need, and having a clear-eyed conversation not only within the district, but your community partners at the county level particularly. This is our crew. Some of these folks are familiar. You'll see Mr. Dudley, who leads our ORED group on the far right, and Mr. Godfrey there in the middle, who did the land use survey. But we've got 14 folks on our staff. Dr. Thayer and I are here today just as two of them. Wanted to make sure you have the names and faces with the people that do this work back at Centennial Campus. Many of these folks are technical experts in the areas that they support. Big picture, as Dr. Fleming pointed out, ORED has given you the enrollment forecasted numbers over the next decade. In addition, many of your transportation folks are familiar with our TIMS team, which does a lot of the school bus route optimization work, training up new TIMS operators and supporting transportation directors in North Carolina. But we also do deep optimization work, route reviews, bell times, even looking at the tiered structures, right? That's a conversation for a later day. I wanted to make sure you knew that NC State, our team in school camp, is working with the enrollment piece and the transportation piece. But the facilities side, those facility master plans, integrated planning with the board and the county, community engagement, the academic space needs that you have, the profiles, talking about conversations of EC or ESL. How are we instructing those classes and are they being pulled out or pushed in instruction? Those are just examples. And reviewing school capacities. So that's what we're bringing you today. Talk about within school camp. This is just our contact information, especially for our friends that are visiting. If you needed any contact info for our team, it's here, including our websites and our emails. But across the team, we're a comprehensive turnkey solution for boards of education and school administration. And this is our North Star, our guiding light. The only pathway out of poverty goes by the schoolhouse door. We keep that at the forefront because access to a high-quality education is something we believe every child deserves. That happens through a variety of efforts, not just transportation, but also looking at eligibility. And when students arrive, are we ready to receive them from a capacity conversation and an instructional delivery conversation? Does the building suit what you're trying to do? And again, couldn't think of a better place than being here today. This is a great example. When we're talking about an educational facility master plan, we want to consider finance, facilities, and transportation in conjunction with boundaries and the geography of where those schools are at. That does a few things. Let me just go through that. That supports the district and the community vision for schools. Each of the board members has taken the board preferences assessment, sharing with us the modern pain points that you have and the values, which should be the guiding principles that inform what we bring back to you for recommendations. Providing appropriate spaces for educational programs. Meeting the challenge of your school building conditions, and we're familiar with the array of conditions that your facilities are in. Plans to right-size your schools and district for changes in student populations. That's exactly what the ORED team brought you was, here's the future for student enrollment. How do we meet that demand in that moment? Enhancing schools as centers of community. Another unique attribute of this particular building is it's actually right adjacent to a neighborhood. When schools are near where students are, you have more choices to get to school, but it also strengthens the bond between schools and communities. Include school site master plans for each community, being aware that not only the school itself, but the area around it very much constitutes your school community, effectively a neighborhood. Give clarity on costs of work, outlines potential funding sources. We do want to go through, particularly with Mr. Hook and Dr. Fleming, as we round the corner into what's needed in the future. What is that likely to cost, and what is the overall time schedule, and, if you will, the sort of preparations for the financial outlay, and prioritizing work based upon needs and resources. There's a lot of needs. We won't be able to solve them all at once. Our goal today is to bring you a plan forward on what the next few months look like, and then as we round the corner into the facility master plan, how we get there in support of the administration, the board, and ultimately your students in your community. The good news is that you've already taken some of the crucial steps on that journey, including point 2, enrollment projections with demographic studies. Again, that was from this fall, as well as the facility conditions assessment that's already been done with BASICA. So those 2 things are huge lists, and you've already got them in your portfolio. In addition to that, we've been working with the administration on the community engagement plan. We'll review that with you today. Reviewing school inventory with capacity and utilization analysis. The principals have all gone through and measured their classrooms. We've been working shoulder to shoulder to build a comprehensive database for the entire district for every single classroom in Alamance Burlington. And then looking ahead at cost outlays, potential funding sources for the needs that are there. And when you talk about needs, recognizing there are many goals that we have. Some of them can be contradictory. We want to outline where, as you're making decisions and as an elected body and a group, that you're aware of what are the standards that you're trying to pursue, what are the goals you're trying to pursue, and problems you're trying to solve, and being clear up front about, did we specify the problems that we're looking to address? So it's just a review of that timeline, these components laid out in a different way. Again, your enrollment forecast is in hand, your facility conditions assessment has been performed, we've received from the administration the academic program standards, and you, the board, have shared your priorities and values. As I said, in progress right now, we're building out the classroom database for every school facility in Alamance Burlington, and ahead is looking at community engagement with your public and your families, talking about what are the issues that are to be solved, bringing that back into the laboratory at NC State in the month of February, and then bringing solutions forward to you, the board, the administration, and talking transparently about what can we do in the near term and what do we need to start preparing for the long term. On the classroom database side, I wanted to outline just sort of the question prompts that we've set up this architecture with, which includes really 3 things for every classroom in the district. Well, number 1, what room are we talking about? Is it room 101 at Williams High School or another room? Number two, what's the size? Does it have a sink? Does it have a bathroom? That gives us a sense of the scope of what it could be used for, whether that's pre-K, EC, or fifth grade, right? Those attributes at a classroom level help inform what we could really use it for to be a suitable environment for your children and the working environment for your staff. As an example of how that rolls up, this is more of the dashboard version of it. This is not a real school, this is just a simulation. On the back end, we have row by row, over 2,000 rows of all the classrooms in the district that will, at a dashboard level, it's a referential database. So as we change those attributes and principals put in the information, it updates the overall capacity for each school. What we very much want to do is be able to say transparently, we've reviewed it with the administration and your school level leaders, so that when we have conversations about capacity, that's been fully vetted by your stakeholders at every level. With that, I'm going to invite Dr. Thayer to walk us through the stakeholder plan for engagement in Alamance Burlington. Lyndon, please.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Lyndon Thayer, and thank you again for having us here. And I'll go ahead and review some of our engagement work that we've done thus far and that we'll be doing in the coming months. So I'll first go over our timeline, and then we'll delve into 4 different groups that we are primarily engaging with. And thanks very much upfront to our support from Mr. Hook and from Emily Lynn in the communications department for making this such an easy process. In brief, you probably are aware that our community survey is already open and out there, and it is open until this Thursday night at midnight. We have already met with your principals. I'll speak more about that in a second. We're here today with you all. Tomorrow we have our first meeting with our community advisory board. And in the coming 2 weeks, we'll have 2 open community meetings out in different sections of your county in order to engage with as many families and community members as we possibly can. That sums up January. It's quick, it's speedy, it's full of activity. And then our team goes back to the lab, as we say. And so for the month of February, we will be taking in, processing, digesting all of the qualitative and quantitative data we've collected in these last few months, and especially in these last few weeks, and generating some solutions and ideas. We then reappear the first week in March, and in rapid succession, we'll be bringing you all some of the ideas and concepts that we've created together. So we'll first speak with you, return to the advisory board to give them a preview of what's coming, and then again speak to the community in several open sessions. And finally, we'll return with the finalized version of our content and hand it over to you to do the hard work of voting and implementing. Like I said, we have sort of 4 large groups that we're thinking about as we think about engagement. And the first is principals and school leadership. And last week we had a lovely session with 2 different sessions actually with your principals, really talking about the why, a little bit of the what and the process, and then really working with them to empower them to be those change leaders, because they are probably, along with you all, going to get a lot of the questions from community. And so we want to make sure that they were empowered to move forward as a unified body and really respond to community in positive ways and hold a lot of the feelings, a lot of the questions, and a lot of the content that's going to come from all the different angles. So that was a great time. These are pictures from that event. Like I said, we're engaging with community and families directly. That survey tool is out there, and we already have almost 2,500 responses. That's incredible. And those responses are full of lots of qualitative content. People are writing in, they have lots to share. And so we're excited to delve into that. In addition, the survey is an accessible tool for many families, but not for all. So we pair that with those community sessions to have a little bit more of that 2-way conversation for those who want and or need to show up in person and not to just digitally record their thoughts and feelings. The third group is that community advisory board. Our first session is with them tomorrow, and the point of that advisory board is to have another opportunity for your many communities represented in the overall ABSS community to have their voice heard, to have representation, and to make sure that we aren't missing any really important pieces that might not be caught by that community survey or in an in-person large community session. So that advisory board, their role is both to bring information to us, but also eventually to be those advocates on your behalf to go back into community and to say, we're for this and here's why, or we've understood the why and the how and have had more engagement with this leadership team so we can communicate to you in the public why we do or don't, understand or do or don't believe that this is the right way to go. So they're going to be going back and forth both ways. The membership of that advisory committee includes both elected and staff, county and municipal representation, school leadership from each of the feeder patterns. It will also include families from each of the feeder patterns, as well as sort of outside community organizations. And I'm sure Emily Lynn will probably be able to provide you with a finalized list, because that list won't be finalized until we finally meet tomorrow, of who's involved. And finally, the fourth group that we're engaging with is you all. So thank you for completing way back in December, long before the new year. You all each completed our board priorities assessment. And so we're going to spend a few minutes reviewing what we heard at the aggregate level. And as a reminder, we really focused on what are the challenges that you are most interested in engaging with. Because we can just come up with solutions all day, but if we're solving for the wrong problem, we all haven't done our job together. So we want to hear about the challenges. Then we asked about your values. What's going to guide your decision making? Because as Matthew pointed out, there will be forks in the road and there will be trade-offs and compromises. What are the guiding stars that are going to sort of lead where those trade-offs are made so that you know you're doing it on behalf of your values and your community's values? And then we did force the exercise of asking you all to prioritize, which is not easy. But really, if you push comes to shove, what are the top items in these two categories? So we'll review that now. Our descriptors today are most important and very important. So the information we're sharing with you are really everything that rose to the top. And when we say most important, it meant that at least 4 out of 7 board members gave it a 5 out of 5 most important on the rating scale. And what emerged from y'all were the following. We had sort of 2 buckets of information. One set of challenges has to do with staffing. So that includes enough bus drivers for the routes that are currently happening, and of course, teacher and staff retention. And related to the bus driver issue, we have just the long routes, the long rides that some students are experiencing in transportation. So these collectively rose to the top as some of the most important challenges that you all want to address. In that next category, that very important category, means that either at least 4 of the board members had either a 4 or a 5 out of 5 on the rating scale for these items. This includes student assignment. So as we mentioned, student populations have shifted, boundaries have not. So addressing that concern. And then there were a whole host related to school facilities, including the health of the classroom environment and the age of the buildings impacting both academic programming, operational programming, and the cost of maintenance. And then when we asked you to prioritize those challenges, this is how it falls out. I'm not saying anything new here. These are all items you've seen on the last 2 slides, but you can see teacher and staff retention at the top, followed by bus drivers, safety of buildings, health of the buildings, and so forth. All right, those were the challenges, the issues to address. And then we switched gears and said, what are the values that are going to guide decision making? And so we did the same kind of rating scale again. We have the most important topics, most important values, 5 out of 5 for at least 4 out of 7 board members. And here you'll see a number of items. So we have facilities, including the health and safety of the building. We have that student assignment, ensuring that there is equitable distribution of students across schools. And academic programs, it rose to the top that it's important to maintain specialty programs as you currently have them. In that very important category, we add to the list things like transit time, more efficient bus routes, maximizing the use of available buildings, and retiring buildings that have reached the end of their useful life. And then in student assignment, both maintaining feeder patterns and maintaining current grade configurations. Those were also important values that we heard. And then when we forced the rating system to happen, this is what it ended up looking like. Health and safety at the top for the buildings, followed quickly by ensuring well-balanced student populations. And then down the list we go, feeder patterns, et cetera. And I believe with that, that concludes the portion of just summarizing your findings. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back to Matthew, and we'll be happy to answer questions at the end.
All right, thank you, Lyndon. we want to bring this full circle because it's important that there's a connective thread between the issues and challenges that you're grappling with as an administration, as a board, and a public. What can be done about them within the realm of operations? When we talk about retention of staff, there's a lot of things there that go well beyond operations, but we did want to point out something as simple as the learning environment in a classroom is the working environment for a teacher. Driving a bus when it's a 2.5 hour ride versus a 30-minute ride directly impacts the experience of the bus driver as well as the students. And so when we think comprehensively about that, some of these issues begin to connect. So in the middle column here, you see on the far left, you see the challenges that Lyndon has outlined based on your feedback as the board. In the middle, you see sort of our thoughts on ways that that might be addressed either as a direct way or an indirect way, and then where within the supports that NC State can provide, we can bolster and provide some support there as well. So in this conversation, certainly with regards to boundaries for the 26-27 year, you'll see those shaded in that beige color, and that includes being mindful of the bus ride lengths for students, recognizing the shifting populations, but the boundaries that we realize there's a legacy there, and the access to specialty programs. Those all emanate right around student assignment and choice programs, being intentional about what you're offering from a choice-based perspective, how kids can get there, not only transportation-wise, but eligibility-wise, and most presciently, the boundaries themselves, the geography of eligibility. That's what this first piece of the cookie is about, is really focusing in on boundaries in the near term. Long term, you see the other issues, and I'll go through them. Certainly, school building safety and health, buildings fitting the modern operational expectations, and I would add to that as well, we heard the academic expectations and needs of our buildings concurrently. The money that's spent on keeping older buildings running on maintenance and repairs, and then again, emanating back towards retention. Those all are within the educational facility master plan. That's having a conversation, a 2.0 conversation about, now that we've addressed the most pressing issue, which is students in overcrowded schools, how do we enhance the both capacity of the district, but we'll also say the adequacy of the buildings to support your staff and your students. That'll all come in the educational facility master plan ahead. For today, we really want to draw your eye to those top 3 lines and say, we can be mindful and helpful with the bus route lengths. We can balance out the student populations and look at access to specialty programs. And then as we go forward, looking around the corner at a comprehensive educational facility master plan. What's going to be needed for your capacities and ensuring that all schools are good schools from an infrastructure perspective. Just want to reiterate the timeline here. We have 2 months together between January and March, but seating it such that you'll see the work sessions here on January 13th. Tomorrow we'll be with the advisory board to kick that off. The community meetings 1 and 2 at Williams and Southeast. We'll go into the lab in the month of February and bring back, as Lyndon pointed out, some ideas and solutions to the challenges that we're trying to address in the near term. Then engaging with those populations again in the month of March and seating you on a timeline so that if you are to make boundary adjustments, families have time to prepare for that for the August 2026-27 school year. Again, here's our contact information, and we are here to support you and answer any questions, clarifications that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Palmer and Dr. Thayer. We will certainly get this presentation from administration and get it out to the board members. Are there questions or comments in what's been presented here today from board members? Yes, Dr. Hall.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm glad you came back to this slide because I think the comments I've been getting from people in the community who've been taking the survey is like they didn't see how this was going to help with the rezoning process, right? But I think this clear lays out that there's plans for other data to be used in other ways, but there's a clear piece of this that's going to be used for that specific issue. And I think putting that out there for the community here in the last few days might be helpful because a number of people like, what's the having an unsafe school building or unhealthy class environment, like how's that relate to rezoning? And I was saying, well, it's the totality of the survey that's important. And I think this really helps articulate that for our community also. So thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Any other questions, Mr. Wagner?
Just a quick comment. Again, thank you for your work. I know this has been tough on all of us. I want to say this to the community. Reach out to the board members. If you have questions, concerns, show up to a meeting, reach out to us because we want to do what's best for our community, short-term and long-term. The blessing of Alamance County, we're growing folks, and this is part of the growing pains that we have. So all I ask is if you have questions, concerns, show up. Ask questions because we're here to serve you. We're here to serve you and your students moving forward, not today, but for tomorrow as well. Thanks.
Real quick, I'll just interject. Thank you to Mr. Wagner. He is our board liaison for the community focus group. So we appreciate his leadership on behalf of the board. Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, so just like everyone else, thank you for the presentation. I wanted to go back to, you had said, Mr. Palmer, you had said something about that y'all had principals and I guess other school leaders that was doing measurements of their classrooms and everything, so you can have an idea of the size of the classroom, what things are in the classroom. Like we know for like an elementary school, it might be like a bathroom in some of the classrooms with like the pre-K or maybe kindergarten students, and then high schools you might have sinks and things. And you said y'all are building a database from that. Could you, I guess, just give a little bit more? I know you had a slide up there that gave like almost like a dashboard type of look. I guess just any more, I guess, information on that database and basically what kind of information y'all would be using from that database based off of those measurements.
Absolutely. And let me go back to that slide because I do think it will be helpful. So let me start here and say, oftentimes in public education, what we built in 1950 and we're using in the year 2026, it's a 75-year window, 76-year window, right? And so I say that to say we've had additions, we've had renovations, we've even had changes in what we're asking schools to do. Right? That includes resource rooms. Great example. In the mid-50s and 60s, we weren't building schools that had spaces for pull-out instruction. We had desks that all pointed one way to a chalkboard. That's changed significantly. And so this does two things. Number one, it tells us within every facility, line by line, room number by room number, what's there. Right? That helps the administration review that and say we can indeed do what we need to do there, or we need to actually make an investment there so that we can do the things at this school that we can't do at this other school. So it helps level the playing field in regards to your academic program instruction. We need to know those attributes. And kindergarten is a great example. We prefer that there be an ensuite bathroom for those little ones that are age 5. If those attributes aren't in any of the classrooms in the building, well, we have a different conversation, right? How could we support those children? And so that's just one example. That will roll up to an individual, and I'm going to walk you through this slide. You'll see in the main rows, you have your core instructional spaces, let's say grades K through 5. Now here in North Carolina, we do have legislative, you'll see that column D, capacity HB 90. Those are your class size averages by grade, and twice a year, Dr. Fleming has to sign an affidavit that says we're in compliance with the overall state mandate with regards to classroom sizing in K3. In addition, going below that, your non-capacity instructional spaces. Some of you probably heard things like, well, we had to put art on the cart, or the music teacher has all the instruments on the cart and we pushed it through the hallway because we had to take, and this may not be Alamance, but this is many communities in North Carolina, we had to take the music room and turn it into a 5th grade classroom because we got bigger than we anticipated. This shows that indeed, in this example, again, this is a simulation, not one school, but this helps us not only make sure that the students fit, but the academic program fits. And in the work that we're really leaning into here, there are 3 pillars of an education facility master plan. We say, number 1, people. Number 2, programs. Not only the students and the staff, but also what's the curriculum delivery and instruction, right? What do we need to do? Does the art room or the music room need specific things that we aren't able to do in other rooms? Generally, yes, because those rooms tend to be bigger than, say, a 3rd grade classroom. And then we get into the unique classroom and space needs of our students that have either exceptionalities or other instructional needs for delivery, and saying, do we have a plan for EC, ESL, if we're doing MTSS, OTPT, speech therapy, we can get into all of the, if there are not spaces for those instructional deliveries, it puts a lot of stress on a building leader and administration to figure out how to do it. So this is trying to create a snapshot so that when we talk about capacity, which we've highlighted there in column E, that's not just saying how many kids can we fit, does the academic program also fit? And if it doesn't, Mr. Hook and Dr. Fleming now have a disparity measure to say, here's where we're short. And it helps us focus on individual schools so that all schools have an equal playing field.
All right, thank you very much for that explanation on that. That makes a lot more sense, especially thinking about the capacities of the schools and stuff too, because we've already ran into some of them challenges right now with having, like you said, with music classrooms or just moving students around from various classrooms and stuff like that too. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any other questions or comments? Dr. Parker? And then did you have
Yep,
that?
so I do want to jump in front of someone as far as the, okay. I'm trying to kind of visualize how you take the inputs and then produce the map. So let's pick something really simple. Balancing schools for socioeconomic status and then also the length of bus ride. I mean, is there a slider as you apply weights to a model or kind of, mechanistically, how do you do that?
Yep. So we use an optimization platform called GAMS. Candidly, it takes about 4 days in our back-end algorithm to weigh out the inputs that we're talking about, and that's a great example. We had a community that said we want to balance enrollment based on student achievement. We had another one that was talking more demographics, another that said we just want the numbers to balance at a seat capacity level, and we want to be mindful of short ride times. So we are using proximity in addition to other inputs, so it is an algorithmic model that is weighing out exactly, as you said, across all 22 to 25,000 students in a forecasted future, while also being mindful of these hard attributes. Actually, this is a great slide to show that there are hard fixed attributes that are not mutable or changeable. So your capacities, that's why it's so essential when we go back to the earlier work that Mr. Dudley shared. These conversations about capacity in the far left, those are the things that once those are locked in, now that gets into your period and block scheduling, a whole bunch of things that we're working with Mr. Hook on to say, what's the true capacity of every school? Once we lock that in and we have your enrollment forecasting locked in, the other things on the optimization side can soak up proximity, distance, there again, the other pursuits and priorities of the board. That's so much of why we're trying to capture those up front and say in a clear-eyed term, there was a conversation about balancing student enrollment. That can mean from balancing enrollment to capacity to other pursuits and priorities of the board. But the administration and our team would need that guidance in order to do that work. And that's so much of what we're doing today is saying what we heard, and I'm going to go back to Dr. Thayer's summary slides. Forgive me for the hopping around here, but what we heard, and especially in the values section, right, some of these are addressed through the facility master plan, and I'll come to this slide. Some of them are directly about the boundary alignments and saying, if we have locked in the capacities, which that's the review that we're finalizing now, and we have locked in the enrollment, now we can have conversations about distance to school in addition to other priorities of the board. Yep.
Got it. So then you'll produce a map and it, like your model results, it feeds, let's say, into Tim's or something like that as far as making sure we've optimized that as part of the process.
Correct.
Okay. After you've trained the model with our inputs and all of that, and the thing that will naturally come up is different scenarios, such as what if we allow seniors to pick their high school? That was a big topic of discussion when we last did it. How easy is it for your group to run scenarios like that, or is it really, you put it through and get a result, and it's computationally intensive to produce scenarios like that as far as?
Yep. We can generate, and I'll say this not encouraging you to do it, but we can generate an infinite number of scenarios. We generally like to look at no more than 3 at one time because it starts breaking the. We do want to kind of we encourage the board to make incremental decisions. And part of what you see here is the recommendation that we focus this next few months on the boundaries, get those secured for the next school year, and then look at the long-term facility master planning and what's needed there to sort of ensure that the fidelity of all schools having an equal playing field. Having said that, if you've got, and this is working with the administration, there will be several different, opportunities to look at scenario A or scenario B. The inputs that you're referencing would be exactly the kind of differentiation between scenario 1 and scenario 2, or A and B. So our intent here is to bring back this information with our team, review it once we get through today and tomorrow, make sure that these values here do reflect the values of the board. As Lyndon pointed to, these are the guiding North Stars that we'll use to load that model. We'll show you what it looks like when we come back in March, and reflecting what the board has shared here in the priorities for values and challenges to address.
And one more quick question, which is, and I'll ask this in an open-ended way. I understand you're making a projection and that things can change. What do you recommend as far as best practice for the board to consider? Well, they're thinking of opening a charter school here in our county, and how might that impact things? Or there's a legislative change and opportunity scholarships really change enrollment, that kind of thing. Is it just kind of a caveat at the end of the model? You may want to consider this possibility, or do you typically generate something numeric? I guess, how does your group deal with that?
Yeah, great question. And I think one of the things we are aware of is that it is fluid times, right? Both on the residential development within the county and then the factors that go beyond the bounds of the county, right? That would include charter schools in adjacent county that may influence certain parts. What we also know is that we need the data in order to rule in or rule out something, right? So for example, the possibility that a charter school may or may not pull in certain students of your population, we are mindful of, and we will name for the board, and we can make recommendations of, if you're down to 2 scenarios, you might want to engender the precautionary principle, say, if this were to be true, and one of the things we've talked about with the administration is it's generally the benchmark to focus on 90% utilization. So you do not want to load a school up to, let's say, if the capacity is 1,000, the goal, we would encourage you not to load it up to 1,000 students. Because when you tip, a whole bunch of other things cascade with that. So to answer your question, Dr. Parker, we would engender those precautionary principles that we're going to lay out all of the factors that we know for certainty, bring you good data on that, name other factors that may influence outcomes, but also talk about what we know thus far about those things and what we don't know, right? So an adjacent county charter school would be one example. I'm trying to think, there was another scenario that you had there.
Opportunity scholarships
Yep.
really change, and then so more students might opt for private school versus public,
Yep.
as far as that's.
And so one of the things that our work does is capture historically for the past 10 years, and this is what, I'm going to lift up my colleague, Mr. Dudley, for a second. Say, I love working with the ORED team specifically because we're pulling in 10 years of choice-based data from families in Alamance County. This isn't state level averages. This isn't regional level averages. This is your families and your students choosing Alamance Burlington school system. So, for example, some of these concerns that are lifted up, the unknowns, they are already baked into the enrollment forecast because we've used historical trend choice-based data, right? So if a neighborhood is built and 100 students move in, we are not assuming that all 100 students are coming to Alamance Burlington school system. I want to be clear about that, that some of the, I'll say for the public, the randomness that may occur in or outside of Alamance is already baked into the enrollment forecast. So we're using choice-based ratios, if you will, rather than absolute data. Does that?
Got it, thanks, that makes
Yep.
sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Ms. Harvey?
This question might reference more to prior board members. So when we did the last rezoning, Did we use a company like Ored or no?
You used internal staff, is my understanding.
We did it internally, and we went through 4 or 5 different scenarios. I'm looking at Mr. Hook, but I think that was before his time as well. And I think I might have been the only board member that sat through some of that. But I remember we started with, we did a lot of the work internally. I do not believe that we benefited from the services of ORED at that time. So I think we had several different scenarios before we landed on one, but there was a lot of movement. I think they kind of became living documents, and then Plan A would merge kind of into Plan B and into Plan C. I think we ended up with maybe a D or an E before we landed on a rezoning plan. The unfortunate part of that is a lot of the students that were rezoned in that rezoning are now probably going to be impacted in this rezoning. So I think it's really important for the board to make sure that we are trusting the experts. Not that our internal people are not experts, but I do believe that you guys have the access to a lot of data that we maybe don't have internally. Or to manipulate it in a way that we can't.
Right.
So I think it's really important that we get it right this time for the board as well as the community.
And I only ask that just to assure the community that we're gonna do right by our students within this school district. And that, you guys as a team are gonna make sure that we're, doing what's best completely for the students and of course families as well. And then I have one more question, might be Emily Lynn. The advisory group, how did we pick those individuals? Or, you don't have to tell me who the individuals are, I'm not asking for that. But, who all does it consist of? Do we have parents on the group, people who really can say how it will affect students or not?
We've got, Emily may want to, we have parents, teachers, principals, school board member. We have members from municipalities and county government. Who am I missing? I believe we have do we have a? Yeah, we have some business folks, and they were chosen, in many cases, the parents, for example, by the principals. We make sure that we have some elementary, some middle, some high school parents. I think that was the main thing, and the suggestions came from the schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Those parents, are they across the district?
They are, there's a few per zone, so I don't remember exactly how many, but there are several per zone across elementary, middle, high, and across each zone.
A long trip.
Yes, ma'am. We did make an effort to make sure that there was a principal, a teacher, and a parent from each zone represented on this advisory committee. And that spanned elementary, middle, and high school. So each zone also has someone from elementary, someone from middle, someone from high. So we made a concerted effort to make sure that everything was covered, in addition to, as Dr. Fleming mentioned, our municipalities, elected officials, community members, business partners.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Rogers.
Well, I think this is off of something that you said, Sandy, so it made me just think about what y'all was previously, when you previously went through the plan and, you said all the various scenarios and that now it might be some of those same students might be impacted. So with y'all, I guess whenever we get to the point of the possible like maps and what they look like and possibly like the 3 versions, 2 versions, whatever it looks like, is it also gonna have in there too, I guess, the community continues to grow. I know from the ORED presentation and I think from the facility needs, it was telling us that there's 121 different housing developments, plans or whatever right now in our county. So with that, we'll also have like that projection of what those school enrollments will look like with that rezoning, because like I said, I thought about what you were saying, Sandy, also similar to what Tamika was down there saying on the fact of, like, if we have this plan now and then you're looking at like 2 years, of course, we don't know what developments are gonna pop up, like, because we have no idea on that. But if we can, I guess, have that projection of what it's gonna look like with this current rezoning to what that future can look like for that zone, for that school, to where it's not a quick, like, okay, we done broke down and got that under that 90% possible threshold right now, but then in 2 or 3 years, then we're looking at it at 98% again. Will that also be included in that?
Very much. That's the goal of all of this chapter, this phase of the project, is to say, we've got to take the pain out for families and staff as soon as possible. And the soonest we can do that is August of 2026. Right. And this is the roadmap to get us to a near-term solution to reduce the most pressing pain point, the long-term fixes, capacities, and your conditions. We're here to support the administration there as well. To your point, and forgive me, I'm going to be a nerd just for a quick sec, and then I'll come back to being a human. But we take the whole county and we create what are called neighborhood planning units. So think of all of Alamance subdivided into pockets of neighborhoods, not just literal neighborhoods, but geographies. Within that, whether it goes to school A or school B, we've got the same number of students, both those that you have today and those that are coming online with the new homes that are being built. So those neighborhood planning units capture not only your existing homes and neighborhoods, but the ones that are under construction and the forecasted number of students that come with them. So when we look at, and I'm going to go back here, one of the things I enjoy about this resource, and I apologize for the flipping, but the colors really speak to the head and the heart, right? We want this table ultimately to be green across the board so that every school has a level playing field. Right? When we're overcrowded, you got 5-6 lunch periods, the car queue is backing up into the road, kids in mobile trailers are at another school altogether. That's the pain point that families, students, and staff feel. So what we're trying to do in the near term is level the playing field to make every school green, to be in that, basically under 95%, but certainly we would advise about 90% to give you room to grow. Whether that neighborhood and those students go to school A or B, we'll capture them in either way with the different scenarios. So to your point, we won't miss any student. And on top of it, those that are coming, we do, you mentioned the 121 residential developments. We keep track of every single one of those things as far as not only are they coming online, are they approved, do they have certificates of occupancy, are they selling on the market, are they occupied and there's moving trucks moving, and we look at that in this entire framework and keep tabs on that. That's why those relationships with the planning departments at the city and county are essential.
All right, thank you very much. And also, I don't want it to get lost. I guess this is for the community too, because it's great to hear that y'all will have that projection in there. And like I said, it's 121 now, but we can be looking in 2 years and it can be another like 50 or 60 that was not. So also, I don't want to put it on the fact of y'all's projection and everybody be like, well, hey, that projection showed this for like a 10-year deal. We still know Alamance County is growing. I mean, Sandy, as a realtor, you know it a whole lot. I mean, us as just residents, we can ride down the road within a couple of months and be like, hold on, they done cleared that off. What are they about to put right there? So that's why I wanted to ask that. But then also I wanted to still put out there, I know from the ABSS plan, that it gave us the idea that still within this, we're going to be the need of new school facilities is going to be still a need. Even some of the schools that we have right now that is older, even with mapping out what the classroom sizes are and what can go in there, understanding that even from what we did on our survey, that some of them are older, and what a new version of that is going to look like in this modern time is going to be a thing that's needed too. So I just wanted to say that too out there for the community. I appreciate that y'all will take in the projections, but I still know I at least want their projection to give us some time out because there's other things that we're going to be needing from other stakeholders in our community to allow for us to do various upgrades to our current facilities, but to look at newer facilities too.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And just real quick, I will add this for the board members. This isn't completely unbiased. This is completely unbiased work based on the best information and data that is available, with a lot of work that goes into those projections. And I will tell you, one of the most important lessons that I learned in the rezoning or the redistricting that we've done earlier is that when you start moving a line, for whatever reason, when you move students into a district, you are impacting another set of students because they've got to be moved out of that district to now accommodate those or open those seats. And I think that's where a lot of the, it became very challenging last time, is because there was a lot of moving parts consistently, and sometimes the data didn't always drive it in that direction. So just to be very mindful as we start those conversations in March is to remember that this is a nice unbiased way so that everybody feels like they've been heard, everybody that has a voice, but it also says, okay, this is what's best for our district moving forward based on what we can see. And then how we kind of work together to pull that together for a final. So I'll just kind of throw that out there.
If I may, just.
Absolutely.
It's a privilege to be a state employee supporting Alamance County. I actually got to take Highway 70 all the way, didn't even have to go on the interstate today, which was wonderful. But as Alamance goes, North Carolina goes. This is an incredibly important centerpiece to support your students, and there's a legacy here. We want to respect the work that you've all done. We make a couple of assumptions, and one is that the board wants what's in the interest of all students in Alamance, and so we're here to support you all. We take pride in being nonpartisan. We are researchers and practitioners. I'm the national chair for school planning at the American Planning Association. And what we're facing in North Carolina is being felt very personally in Alamance. And I just want to name that for the room, that it can feel personal and painful at times, and it can also be an opportunity to come together and grow together.
Thank you for that, Mr. Palmer. Any other questions or comments? Thank you both for being here today. Dr. Fleming, is there anything you want to add?
Well, I want to thank School Camp for their work, as well as all the members of our staff that have had to help with this as well at the district level and ultimately through the advisory boards, even at the school level. So I'm really, the more as we have kind of these check-in meetings each week with School Camp, I'm more convinced that we made the right decision to have them lead this project for us, but also I'm convinced that while we will have people that are concerned going from school A to school B, I know it's going to be done fairly, it's going to be done right. They are experts in this area, and I'm really looking forward to it. And one of the things, to an extent anyway, maybe there's, like I said, we'll have some times we're not looking forward to it, but and I think going along a little bit with what Mr. Rogers said earlier, and I think this is what I really wanted to get across to our commissioners yesterday, and hopefully I did, is the fact that if we were to redistrict today and no schools were over capacity and everyone was happy, that's great. But how long do we hold on to some of these schools? We have a 100-year-old building, or I think, yeah, right at a 100-year-old building at one of our school campuses. We can look at Williams High School. It's been there a long time. How long, if we don't touch that school, how long will it stay standing? And even if they're not impacted in redistricting. So I think those are some of the things I want us to understand, is that yes, this is going to help us in many ways, but we still we'll probably have a couple schools that are above 90%, a few schools that are above 90%. And how long are we going to hold on some of our schools that may be at 70 or 80%? So keep that in mind as we go through this process. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Fleming. All right, we will move into Dr. McWhorter, we will invite you to the podium, our Assistant Superintendent of Academics, for a very exciting topic today, advanced teaching roles.
Madam Chair, Dr. Fleming, it's my pleasure to give you guys, sorry, and members of the board, sorry. It is my pleasure to give you guys an update on the advanced teaching roles initiative that we will be rolling out next year.
It'll be the 10th or the 3rd or whatever it is.
So I know at this time, you have all at least heard of the Advanced Teaching Roles Grant. We spoke about it a little at the meeting yesterday. So the purpose here is really just to give a little bit more granular information on what the purpose of the grant is and what advanced teaching roles are. Now, I also caveat that by saying this is a multi-day training, so we are not going to necessarily engage in a multi-day conversation right now, so we'll keep this more surface level. So the purpose of the Advanced Teaching Roles Grant is to help districts to engage in the work of setting up essentially what is a new staffing model both in district and at schools. So from the district level to ensure that it is being properly supported, and at the school level to make sure that it's being properly implemented. So the funding pays for partnerships with technical assistance partners that have been doing this work, professional development, so that we can make sure that whether it be school administration, central office staff, and or the folks that are entering into these roles, that we really get them the best training that they need and can possibly have, so that they can, one, hit the ground running, and then be a source that will then help us to continue expanding the roles, because they will then become experts in their craft as well. There are no so in order to maintain a successful program, you don't rely on external funding sources. Like, we know that. And so the idea here is not that the program would then in the future require the district to produce extra funding for the expansion of these roles, but that it becomes something that's just simply done internally with existing resources, and that as schools expand, they are doing so also with the allocations that they currently have at the schools. So but here's some good news. So we were awarded $1.4 million, just over. That is over a 3-year time period. Now, we are very proud to say that dollar was the top awarded amount for all grant awardees this time around. Now, some of that obviously has to do with things such as how the grant was written, what we asked for, and obviously also the size of our district. I can also say that from my understanding, we were the highest scoring grant this time around, and potentially in the history of the grant program. So we are also very proud of that. So what are advanced teaching roles? So advanced teaching roles model create additional career pathways for teachers that have track records of success. So traditionally, schools operate on a very top-down model where you have the principal, the assistant principal. You may or may not have a curriculum facilitator or instructional coach, and then the classroom teachers. And it is the job of the principal and assistant principal to not only manage the buildings, to support all the staff, deal with all the disciplinary concerns, parental contacts, but then also we really need them to coach up all of the teachers in the building. So I would challenge anybody to walk over to one of our middle schools or one of our high schools and just fathom the true ask of that task. When you have 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 teachers that could benefit from your support, one person can only do so much. And when that one person is already running the building and dealing with a plethora of other things, you realize pretty quickly that any support they could potentially give to teachers is going to be very watered down and very minimal. Now, they can give advice, they can give some feedback, but true coaching is truly granular feedback. It is day to day that I'm shoulder to shoulder with you. I'm working with you in multiple aspects of lesson planning, modeling, co-teaching, and essentially all those things, where it becomes really an impossibility for a building level leader to do. So the ATR positions also And we as educators are not great about doing this, so we recognize that, and this is one of the things that this program also fixes, is that it actually offers a salary incentive. So we are asking you to do more, we are going to pay you more. Also, due to the fact that you are an expert in your craft and have worked towards and have earned that as well. And again, I already covered this, but these ATR positions are school-based positions. They are school-funded positions. Through those normal allotments that a school might have in terms of personnel and/or additional dollars they may have from either local budgets and/or federal budgets. So how do these roles promote growth in schools? It's always the question, right? Because we don't want to do anything or engage in any work from an academics department standpoint that is not going to pay dividends in terms of student outcomes. So we can all imagine, some of you may know directly, the benefit of having a coach. So when you have that, essentially that job embedded person to work with, that not just a mentor, not just a support, but again, that person that is working with you shoulder to shoulder, it reduces that reliance that we have as a district and that the schools have on external resources, such as technical assistance partners, contractors, and it also helps to best or better facilitate the traction they can get when rolling out new initiatives or the support that they can give for beginning teachers or lateral entry teachers. So schools gain this additional layer of leadership and leadership capacity at their buildings, which hopefully then allows their principals to spend more time focusing on the direction of the school, the climate and the culture of the building, their strategic improvement, because they now have the ability to practice distributive leadership because they have other leaders in the building who are masters at their craft. It also helps to promote a culture of collaboration. Oftentimes, when you get a coach or you get somebody working with you, it's because I'm doing something wrong, because I'm not performing. When simply the truth is that everybody can benefit from a coach. There is not a single person that I know who cannot benefit from a coach, because not one person is the keeper of all knowledge and all skills. And so it helps to shift that lens that when I get feedback, it is constructive, it may be constructive criticism, right? It's not criticism, right? It is something to help me get to the next level and to help me to be, in this case, the best teacher, the best educator that I can be. The model also supports teacher recruitment and retention. So we know that it's an area that we have struggled with, we talked about it yesterday, is teacher retention. When I am a high-performing teacher, I may want additional opportunities. Well, if Alamance County can't offer those additional opportunities, I may go somewhere else that is. And many of our neighboring districts are already practicing and utilizing advanced teaching roles. Now, that same teacher may not necessarily want to go into administration, and that is fine. There are many people that want nothing to do with administration in terms of their career. So the advanced teaching roles offers that next step and that ability to actually to get promoted, to make additional money while staying closely connected to the students and closely connected to the colleagues that it may have been working with for years. So we know that our teaching population has shifted over the years. So this data from DPI, this is statewide data, but Alamance Burlington is a mirror of this. We are not an exception to this by any means. So if you take a look at the dark brown line or tannish line, starts at 22%. This is a change in the number of teachers that come in as lateral entry or alternative entry. Back in 2015, this made up 22% of the teacher workforce in North Carolina. It now makes up 40%, just over. It has almost doubled. The number of teachers from other countries has increased from 2% to almost 10%. So really, I mean, think about that. We need nearly 10% of our teachers coming from other countries in order to staff our schools. That is a lot. And in both of these situations, lateral entry are generally not folks that went to school to be teachers. So they missed all of those classes on lesson planning, on educational theory, on classroom management. They never got any of that. And so when they come into the classroom, simply say, oh, well, make sure you do your lesson plans. Well, what's that look like? But don't forget your activating strategy. You know, when you transition from one, make sure you front load those activities. I'm speaking Greek to somebody because these are never conversations or terms that they would have been familiar with. And so being able to leverage somebody that is an expert and has demonstrated mastery in that is one of the reasons why these programs and why this initiative is so valuable in many of our schools. And also, it's difference in effectiveness. The data is pretty clear that when folks do go to college to be a teacher, they come out better prepared. They perform better. And so you can look at the data. Folks coming from the UNC system meet growth at a rate of about 10% more than teachers that are coming in as lateral entry. And that stat holds true for whether you're coming in out of state or from a UNC or private institution. And so again, the data is clear in showing us that if you're coming in as a lateral entry teacher, you can definitely benefit from that additional support. And we recognize that, and it's not a slight. It's just simply that you did not receive the same training for the role you're currently in as some of the other folks. So surrounding districts that are already engaged in the work of advanced teaching roles. So you can see obviously Alamance County right next to Guilford. When talking about competing with or losing teachers to surrounding districts, right? If we have to make sure that we are staying up to speed and offering what other folks are offering and get to the point where eventually we are the front runners, right? And we are the ones leading those initiatives. So this is a good step in that direction as the program has continued to expand every single year since I've been doing this work, which was about 8 years ago. This has just gained more and more traction. And actually in some other districts such as Charlotte went district-wide with advanced teaching roles in every single one of their schools the other year because they found such success in the schools that were implementing it. So we are excited to be on this map. So evidence of success, right? Because we're not going to do something that is not guaranteed to yield us some results. So statewide data, and again, so this comes as an average across the state for schools that are implementing advanced teaching roles, especially in math. Math showed the greatest gains overall. The gains that equate to what would be 1.2 of extra months of instruction. I have never talked to a teacher that has ever said I had too much time with my kids, right? Everybody's like, I wish I had a few more days. One more day, just one more day, one more week. You know what I could do if I had one more week to prep them for their state test or to cycle back and review something? So what this is showing is that in math, it's the equivalent of 1.2 extra months of teaching and learning. Broken down across all levels. Highest success is in high school, and actually I believe that was a misprint. I think that's either 1.8 or 1.9 months of additional progress in high school, whereas the middle school hits that average right on the nose. But again, we're seeing benefits across all of the content areas. Marginally, ELA in high schools, and I'm not sure as to the exact reason for that discrepancy. My guess would be that when advanced teaching roles were rolled out, high schools were the last schools to see these added into it, so there's probably very few actual numbers of folks working in these roles in high schools. What questions might everybody have?
Thank you, Dr. McWhorter. We are super excited about this opportunity. So thank you for your work and for Dr. Fleming and those involved. Huge feather in the hat for ABSS. Questions or comments from board members for Dr. McWhorter? Dr. Hall?
Sorry, I might have missed this, but is the plan for this to be district-wide, or is this going to be targeted to certain schools? Or
You did not miss that. I
Okay.
should have said it and did not. So like most other things that you roll out as an initiative, you want to make sure that you do it well, right? And so to start, we are going to start with most likely 4 schools that will enter into what we call designing this year. So you have to take into account the current allocations you have, how redistricting might change that, the current financial allotments you have, and then design your staffing plan based off of that. Now, again, the sooner we can get to that work, the better, because that leaves more time to hire for these positions from principals to plan accordingly. So the goal is to start with 4 and probably add about 4 schools each year over the next few years. Also, to be noted, when you are staffing these positions, you are truly looking for the best, which makes it really difficult to staff in every school at the same time. Because you don't necessarily want to take every single great teacher out of the classroom at one time. Also, from a school standpoint as well, you start smaller, even in the school. So instead of saying, oh man, I want to get 5 or 6 of these roles in my building, for a principal, that's actually a very big lift, because as you have to serve as the coach essentially to the coach as a principal, because they are essentially that extension of you in terms of that instructional support. Whereas if I might start with, when I was in Guilford, we limited it starting with two of the coaches per building. That gave the principal the bandwidth they needed to work closely with those folks. And if they wanted to add anybody after that, the current coaches could then actually support the new people coming in as well. So best to always start smaller, stay more focused on it, and then slowly expand it out.
When you're looking at selecting schools, what things are you looking at to kind of drive down to what those 4 schools would?
So one of the most important things is principal willingness and the climate and culture at a school. So you're not going to get anywhere, and you're not going to get there really fast if you put a new program in a school or with a leader that doesn't want it. So it is something that through conversations with multiple principals to determine their interest in it. Now, fortunately, I can say that hasn't been an issue. I have a lot of principals that are interested in doing the work. The size of the school is also important. As I said, you are using current allocations you have in a building, so they have to have enough allocations to promote some flexibility with that. The additional funding from Title I and or CSI helps with that also, as those schools are better able to support the lift of those initiatives. Although, again, there are many districts that run these models in schools that are not Title I and such also. But when you're first starting out, put the additional resources where the need is. So what is your data telling you in terms of schools that you feel like you could benefit the most from these programs, and assuming the climate and culture at the school is primed for it?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions or comments?
Just
Mr.
add one quick
Wagner?
comment. Dr. Moore, thank you for your team for what you're going through. During the campaign process, I made a comment that, the allocation for teachers is paramount in North Carolina, and we're not competing with the counties that are like us. We compete with the counties that touch us. And so I think what you and your team are doing to give a pathway to teachers to be successful, not going to administration, as we spoke about yesterday, and to encourage our kids to learn and be better. And I don't want to send people to understand that we are competing with counties that touch us. Alamance County is a great place to be. It's a great place to grow and have a business. But folks, it's paramount that we have a positive education system here. What you and your team are doing is for our teachers, which in turn supports our families, our communities, and the growth of Alamance County is very appreciative. So I thank you for that. But I want the families of Alamance County to understand, we don't sit up here every day trying just to spend our money. We want to do what's best for you, moving today, tomorrow, and forward, moving forever. So thank you for what your team are doing. And folks, I've said this 1,000 times, the future of Alamance County is bright in public education because of you and what your team are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Wagner.
Mr. Wagner. Mr. Engel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In terms of current teachers that we have, once this program is improvised across our system, the mentors, we have teachers that have been mentoring for years, young teachers as they come in. Would they be looked at to maybe fill in these positions, or will we keep them in that capacity?
So I don't believe this program would take the place of a mentor. So a mentor is very different from a coach. And sometimes I just need somebody to talk to, bounce a couple ideas off, or encourage me, right? Now, these roles are designed for folks that have that strong data to support them, or to support that they are an expert in their craft, right? It's not that we're not going to operate on I feel like I'm really good at what I do, or because I've been a teacher for 10 years, I qualify for this. It's if you have the data to demonstrate mastery and teaching excellence, then you will qualify for these, whether you have been a mentor in the past or not. And many folks, like, they may look at the roles and such and say, yeah, not for me. I don't really want to coach other adults. And that is okay. That is 100% okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Mr. Rogers?
Yes, Dr. McWhorter, I think you said that y'all, while you was in Guilford, y'all did something similar to this or had the advanced teacher roles program also. So I guess, what is a way to say that you check the effectiveness of it and a way of actually seeing that this advanced teachers roles was effective throughout the school system and everything and it helped towards the priority of student performance and achievement?
So, great question, Mr. Rogers, and important to note that outside of just my experiences, and I will say, quite frankly, if the program was not successful and we did not experience high levels of success with it when I was in Guilford County, it's not something that I would have looked at bringing to Alamance County. I definitely would not have explored applying for the grant. But also, by evidence of success from this program across the state, or by evidence of the data that you're seeing on the screen now. When folks, teachers, have other people that they can lean on, that they can rely on, and that will help them to actually engage in best practice in their classroom, and not just from the sense of that I'm telling you to do this. I am working side by side with you. I'm showing you how to do this. In a granular way. So it is really that kind of that step-by-step manner. It's really hard to not get better. And so our data was pretty clear in Guilford County. I believe that the data that's up on the screen is pretty clear across the state. And so this is a best practice, and is one of the things that I know the state board has been fully behind. Both sides of the aisle in terms of legislators have been very supportive of. And I think that's why you're seeing it to continue to expand across the state.
And I'll just reiterate what some of the other board members have said. Thank you, Dr. McWhorter, and your academic team on your work. And also a big congratulations on the award of the grant and having the highest amount and everything. So that also lets me know that you wrote up, or whoever wrote up, a great grant proposal too. So thank y'all for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any other questions or comments? Dr. Parker?
So it's common in companies to have like a technical track where you eventually become a fellow or something, and then a track for management. And it sounds like this is a little bit like that. I guess my first question is, how is this sustained in the out years? So if you get a financial boost from being one of the mentors, mentor may not be the right word, if you're participating in the program as a leader in the program, and the teacher leader, thank you very much. How does ABSS, how are they thinking about continuing the program past the end?
So again, great question. And one of the best parts about the program is it does not require the additional funding to maintain. So the additional funding is a great resource to support the startup of the program and make sure everybody gets the training that they need to have, and that you can partner with the proper companies and technical assistance partners to ensure that the way that things are supposed to be done is what is done over those first few years. After that, you truly do not need, I will say, additional staff to continue running the program. It can be managed with existing staff. From the school perspective, I'm using allotments that I already have at the school. I may be using some federal programs dollars in terms of Title I to support what that looks like in terms of what positions I have at the school, and whether those folks might still be teaching some classes or not be teaching some classes and engage in that coaching work all day long. The state is actually so supportive of this that they actually provide a portion of that salary differential to the people that are in these roles. However, each year that we plan for the staffing, we plan like that's not going to be there. So we are not reliant on the state to provide that funding for our teachers. And so if something happened, like, I don't know, maybe the state doesn't pass a budget, then we can still make sure that we have the money that we need in-house, and the schools do personally, to support those roles at their school. So it's not something that's funded, I will say, via central office. And so it's not something that, you know, a central office leader would come say, we're going to shift these resources and put them somewhere else. The school is building that based off the resources they currently have.
Great. And I have a comment and then an unrelated question. So my comment is, if folks remember yesterday, I said that the cell phone ban, that they looked in Florida and that the effect was about 0.07 to 0.1 standard deviations as far as test scores. That's a pretty good number for an educational intervention, and it's comparable to implementing one of these programs. Something I've wondered about the lateral entry teachers, as far as the lower effectiveness as far as achieving the EVOS growth scores is, well, let me give an unrelated example. So surgeons' complication rate is just by itself not a great number to look at, because it could be a better surgeon takes more difficult cases and it naturally has a higher rate. And maybe lateral entry teachers or lateral entry candidates are considered in positions that are hard to hire for, something that's inherently more difficult. And I've never seen that addressed. And so I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that, or, you know, if they're considered for some kinds of positions versus others, just out of curiosity.
We do know that overall, beginning teachers, which again, you could probably spread that across the makeup of lateral entry and those that actually went through a teacher prep program, are based more at lower socioeconomic schools than schools that have higher socioeconomics. So we know that. We know that, and this is part of the reason why when you're looking at these systems like this, initiatives like this, you always start where the need is the greatest, right? And to ensure that, because those are going to be your highest concentration of beginning teachers and lateral entry teachers, that you're providing them with those supports. And so I don't know the exact numbers on the distribution of our teaching staff here in Alamance, but I know that's a general truth that's cross-state and probably cross-nation.
Okay, got it, thanks. No.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. All right, any other questions or comments for Dr. McWhorter? Thank you very much for your work on that, and I believe you might be up next.
I'm still here. So, Madam Chair, Dr. Fleming, members of the board, I'm going to present, do I need to change these? Sure, I'll let you. So we are bringing 6 field trips for your approval today. So a little bit of a change in how we typically present the field trips. Typically, they are presented for consent agenda and then voted on the consent agenda at the next board meeting. Due to the nature of how the board meetings land over the holidays, I will be presenting these as a voting item for today. So the 6 field trips we have, first is Southern Alamance High School is requesting approval to take their baseball team to Wilmington, North Carolina to participate in a baseball tournament, April 5th through 7th. This trip will occur over spring break, not resulting in any loss of instructional time. The estimated cost will be approximately $300 per student. Fundraising opportunities will be available, and the Baseball Booster Club will ensure that no student is excluded due to socioeconomics. The second is also Southern Alamance High School, and they are requesting approval to take their cheerleaders to the UCA Nationals in Orlando. This actually occurs at the end of the month, January 29th through February 3rd. Total cost $989 per student. Fundraising opportunities through the Booster Club, they're obviously ongoing, but they will still be provided. Additional ones will be provided, and most students cover the majority of their travel expenses through this. And this trip also spans a weekend as well. Williams High School is requesting approval to take their students in the Financial Academy to New York City as part of their biennial WWHS AOF Bulldogs on Wall Street trip from April 14th through 17th. This experience will include a Wall Street simulator and tour the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and visits the marketing and events management departments of Madison Square Garden. Total cost is just over $1,000 per student. Payment plans and financial scholarships will be provided by the AOF Advisory Board and will ensure that no student is excluded due to socioeconomics. This is a trip that does occur every other year. Sylvan Elementary is requesting approval to take its 5th grade students to Ripley's Aquarium in Myrtle Beach for a Sleep with the Sharks program, April 23rd and 24th. This experience includes team building activities and enhances 5th grade science standards. Total cost of the trip is $72 per student. Fundraisers and PTA contributions will help to ensure that no students are excluded. The two teacher cadet programs. Teacher cadet program is requesting permission to take current teacher cadet students to the NC State FTA Teacher Cadet Conference at the Embassy Suites in Greensboro from March 6th through 7th. Students will compete in a variety of activities, including public speaking, children's literature, and mock interviews. Total cost is only $25 per student. Teacher cadet program will cover half of that cost. And any student that needs all of that covered, they will be supported as well. And Western Elements High School is requesting approval to take current teacher cadet students to the same conference, but on May 1st, 2026. Students will compete also, again, in a variety of events such as public speaking, children's literature, and mock interviews. Same cost is $25. The teacher cadet program will cover half of that, and if any students need, we will cover it all. So present these items to the board for approval.
Thank you, Dr. McWhorter. Are there any questions about any of the field trips? And
I have kind of a meta question, which is, what does, I understand that when you're doing these permissions, or when a school is asking to do a field trip, they fill out a form and say it's related to these standards and that kind of thing. How is the impact on instructional time taken into consideration? It seems like some are, perhaps more of an impact and some are less, and I didn't know if there was anything done there before we see it.
So yes, there is. So we have had a variety of conversations with the principals about making sure that the field trips they are asking for and requesting span weekends whenever possible. If they're going to be longer, they occur over spring break, especially when you're looking at, like, we'll say the baseball tournament. We know that to academic standards, we're not crossing over, right? And so that's a tournament, that's a request that they made for over spring break. And so the principals have been, I will say, much more attentive to that. We feel like there's still some space where we can get a little bit tighter and a little bit better. But it's also, when, take into consideration how well a certain group of students may be performing, how well they may be doing. If they're high risk in terms of, I might not graduate, then we would probably be better off keeping you in class, right? And so principals do also take that into account when submitting the approvals. And we have a variety of conversations with them when they submit these. And oftentimes in the system, they may also, teachers may submit lesson plans to tie into the standards, the units that it ties into and such also.
Okay, great, thanks. I don't have any other questions. I'd be happy to make a
is it the
motion.
pleasure of the board that we vote on these collectively?
That'd be very-
Happy to entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the field trips as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Park. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Engel. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
McWhorter. At this time, I will invite Dr. Davis, our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, to the podium.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Fleming. I am sharing with you today 10 grants. The first 8 are from Teacher Leadership Academy participants who were awarded creativity grants from Impact Alamance. Sarah Mason from Eastern Alamance High School received $20,000 for the Eagles Perch. The funds will be used to revitalize the Media Center to create an inclusive, flexible, and collaborative learning space for all students. Stephanie Ector from Elon Elementary School received $18,392 for her project titled Fun Without the Sun. The funds for this project will be used to install a 20 by 30 foot sunshade over one of the playgrounds to provide students a safe and comfortable area for outdoor play and learning. Siobhan Vi from E.M. Holt Elementary received $20,000 to support project-based learning with agriculture education. She will use funds to create an interactive outdoor agricultural learning space featuring raised garden beds, an outdoor kitchen, and solar-powered greenhouse. Jennifer Payne from Hawfields Middle School also received $20,000 for her project titled Reimaging Our Media Center, Upgrading Our Media Center for Innovation. She will use the funds to transform an outdated library originally designed in 2000 into a modern, flexible, and technology-driven learning environment. Sarah Rolini from Hall River Elementary received $20,000 for her project titled Strengthening Student Focus and Achievement Through Behavioral and Sensory Support. Sarah will use funds to address rising behavioral and attention-related challenges by funding sensory tools, calm-down room equipment, and classroom supports to help students self-regulate, maintain focus, and stay engaged in learning. Bree Shipman from Hillcrest Elementary received $10,304 for the Hornet's Nest project. Funds will be used to create a multifunctional space, student success space, featuring a leadership hub, club area, and PBIS support center to strengthen student voice, positive behavior, and school culture. Marcia Parker from South Mebane Elementary received $5,000 to create a sensory room. This space will be created to help students in grades K through 5 regulate their emotions and sensory needs, promote focus, self-control, and readiness to learn. Mary Morehouse from Ray Street Academy received $11,304 to support her project titled the Ray Street Academy Historical Museum and Library. The funds will be used to develop an in-house exhibit and learning space in partnership with the African American Culture Arts Museum, featuring on-site and mobile displays to share the history and legacy of this significant landmark with the broader community. And then our last two that were not creativity grants from Impact Alamance. Hawfields Middle School received a grant from Piedmont Electric, Bright Ideas grant in the amount of $1,943.30. Funds for this grant will be used to upgrade weight room equipment, facilities, create a safer and more inclusive and developmentally appropriate environment for all students. And then lastly, the district received a grant from Impact Element in the amount of $50,000. The funds will be used for the strategic planning process, including contracting with education elements and hosting community listening sessions. So that is a total grants of $176,943.30. Very impressive.
Quick comment.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, thank you for this presentation. I want to thank those participants in the academy who've done such good work in our community and what you're doing for our school and our students. And thank you to our partners at Piedmont EMC and Impact Alamance. We couldn't do what we did today without you. So I think we'd have a big old shout out for those folks who are working hard for ABSS, including our partners. Thanks.
I think we'll all just say ditto to that. Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Are there any questions specific to any of the grants? If not, you want to make a motion, or these are information, I'm sorry. Getting ahead of myself. I'll let you make that motion next 2 weeks. So, thank you, Dr. Davis.
Thank you. So next, I have 9 gifts. First, E.M. Yoder Elementary School recently received a donation from Brandy and Christabel Bechtel in the amount of $24,500. The funds will support the replacement of the school's existing awnings, enhancing the campus for students and staff. The Eastern Alamance High School Band Program received a donation of $1,250 from the Mebane Women's Club. The funds will be used to purchase a bass clarinet, enhancing musical opportunities for the students. Eastern Alamance High School received a $1,000 donation from the Mebane Women's Club. The funds will be used to purchase new physical education equipment for students. South Mebane Elementary School received a $1,000 donation from the Mebane Women's Club. The funds will be used to purchase new equipment and enhance the school's physical education program. The Mebane Women's Club also donated $1,000 to Hawfields Middle School to purchase new equipment and further enhance the physical education program. EM Yoder Elementary School also received $1,000 from the Mebbins Women's Club. The physical education program will use funds to purchase new equipment. Alexander Wilson Elementary School received a $1,000 donation from the Mebbins Women's Club. The donation is also going to be used to support the physical education program. Buckner Steel donated $1,000 also to Alexander Wilson Elementary School to support the construction of a playground shelter. Mr. Walter Ray of the Alamance County Sheriff's Department has been actively working to secure community support for this initiative. And then lastly, Cummings High School received a $3,500 donation from Hibbett Sports in recognition of their grand opening celebration. The funds will be used to support student field trips, staff appreciation initiatives, and athletic program needs.
Thank you, Dr. Davis.
And so that is a total of $35,250.
Another quick
Comment, Mr.
comment, I'm
Wagner?
sorry. Amen and ditto. I mean, thank you to our community partners who continue to support our education efforts and support our students and extracurricular activities. I mean, we couldn't do this without you guys, so thank you so very much, and thank you, Dr. Davis, for presenting that to us. Appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think that cumulatively is over $200,000 just in grants and gifts this meeting. So huge testament to community support. Thank you, Mr. Wagner, for that. We will look forward to seeing you at our evening meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Mr. Hook, our Deputy Superintendent of Operations.
Madam Chair, Dr. Fleming, members of the board, today I am presenting two contracts for K&C Technologies to install security cameras and keyless door access systems at Alexander Wilson Elementary School and AO Elementary School. The value of the contract for Alexander Wilson Elementary School is $138,798.79. The value for the contract for AO Elementary School is $155,561.31. These two contracts are for information today. The contracts are linked on the board agenda, and I hope to have these moved to the consent agenda for the late January meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Hook. Questions or comments from board members? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hook.
Thank you.
And I will invite Dr. Davis back to the podium for policy updates.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Fleming. I think this is thinking. I'll give it a second. Okay.
Yeah, ours is mine is not.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Are you guys, yours loaded? Okay. So the North Carolina School Board Association updated 24 policies in their fall 2025 policy update, and staff have added one additional policy update from the policy update at the very bottom of the table. That is the first item that's attached on Simile. From the School Board Association, 18 of those policies have substantive changes, and 6 policies only have minor changes. All of the recommended changes are described in detail in this attached table that's been uploaded. For policy 3300, which is the one that the staff have added, which is titled School Calendar and Time for Learning, staff have updated language to ensure clearer alignment with state legislation.
Have fun.
You're still thinking?
I'm still thinking. Are there any questions?
Any questions or comments? I think some of us are waiting. I think we're just running a little slow. Not us, the board members, the computers. Any questions or comments from anything that you've reviewed thus far? These will be, yes, Dr. Parker.
Policy 7910, I don't know if you could provide a little bit of additional background about why this change is happening or anything like that. I read it and was still mildly confused.
Yes, so this is the information that was provided by the School Board Association. They have added language stating that if an employee's retirement allowance is subject to an adjustment pursuant to the contribution-based benefit cap for retirement, the board will not be responsible for restoring the employment's retirement allowance to the pre-cap amount unless otherwise specified by the employee's contract.
Legal may need to chime in on that.
I can't pull it up.
Oh,
The only part about that I completely understand because they changed that with some rules with, the retirement system, is I think if the school district has to pay, the, spiking amount, if that individual came back to work in the school district, I think they're able to deduct some of that out of the pay, but I'm gonna defer that, cause I don't completely understand it myself, so I'll defer to council on that.
I'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
I know it's a change, they've had conversations about statewide.
Great.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Any other questions or comments for Dr. Davis? Again, we'll see this at our evening meeting in 2 weeks for a vote.
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I can't see the agenda, so I don't know what's next.
And Madam Chair, what we'll do, because I know we're having some issues,
Closed
bringing it up,
session.
we will not put this on a consent agenda. We'll put it together as a regular agenda item, Karen, and then that way you'll have an option or an opportunity to ask more questions.
All right.
Closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Fry. So at this time, I believe there is a motion from our vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board members, I make a motion, we enter closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to preserve attorney-client privilege, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider confidential personnel information protected under North Carolina General Statute 115C-319 and 115C-321.
Thank you, Mr. Ingles. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. All in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. We will move into closed session at this time. We are back in open session. At this time, I welcome Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Ms. Yolanda Anderson, to the podium for our personnel report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. I ask that you approve the personnel report as amended in closed session.
Motion to approve personnel report as amended in closed session.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Is there any other business before the board this afternoon?
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for being with us today, and we will see you in 2 weeks.